The galaxy was burning, the stars were full of war and no world was safe anymore. Planets fell one by one to a hunger that could not be stopped. The swarm came without mercy and left only dust behind. The great alien empires had fought with their strongest armies but nothing had worked. Ships were broken. Worlds were eaten. Cities were gone forever. The Council of the Galaxy gathered in secret halls far away from the front lines. They were proud races once, but now they were afraid. They needed help, any help, because their people could not fight anymore. They spoke of mercenaries, of allies, of weapons that might be found in hidden corners of space. But there was one name that kept returning in whispers, a name spoken with fear and doubt. Earth. The humans lived on a small blue world near the edge of known space. To many aliens it was nothing but a forgotten planet, too young and too wild to matter. But some remembered stories. Stories of wars on Earth, where humans killed each other in numbers that shocked even the coldest minds. Stories of weapons made not for defense but for destruction. Stories of a people who never stopped fighting even when hope was gone. Some aliens warned the Council not to call them. They said humans were too violent, too dangerous, too unpredictable. But desperation was stronger than fear. And so a message was sent across the stars: we need soldiers. The answer came faster than expected. The humans did not send a long list of demands. They did not ask for treasure or promises. They only sent back 3 short words: we are coming. When the alien fleets gathered to welcome them, they expected soldiers with banners and honor songs. They expected speeches about unity and courage. But when the human ships arrived, the air grew cold. The vessels were dark and silent, built for war not ceremony. They carried no music, no flags, only shadows of steel. And when the humans finally stepped out, the aliens fell silent. These were not soldiers. These were killers. Their armor was black, without shine, and their faces were hidden by cold glass. Their weapons were heavy, carried like tools by hands that did not shake. They moved in silence, each step perfect, each glance sharp like a blade. The alien leaders felt fear, real fear, as if predators had entered the room. A voice broke the silence, deep and calm. You asked for soldiers, the human commander said. We brought death. The words spread through the chamber like fire. Some aliens stepped back. Others whispered to each other in fear. Was this the right choice? Had they saved their people, or invited new monsters into their homes? The humans did not care for their fear. They did not ask questions or seek approval. They studied the maps, the enemy positions, the broken defenses. They worked in silence like hunters preparing for a hunt. And for the first time in a long age, the alien leaders felt something new. It was not hope. It was not peace. It was something darker but stronger, a belief that maybe these humans could do what no one else could. Maybe they could kill the swarm. Outside, the war still burned. Planets still screamed for help. The swarm moved closer each day. And now the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. They had asked for soldiers. They had begged for an army. And Earth had answered with something else entirely: death squads. The ships closed their doors. The humans prepared to launch. The galaxy watched, silent, afraid, and full of questions. Would these humans save them? Or would they learn too late that the monsters they had called for were worse than the monsters they fought? The first meeting between humans and the galaxy was not like any other meeting of allies. The aliens had expected warmth and promises, but the humans gave them none. Their ships landed on the council station with perfect silence, and their soldiers walked out in lines so exact that even machines could not match it. There was no music, no banners, no friendly words. Only heavy steps that echoed across the metal floor. The alien leaders looked at them with mixed feelings. Some saw saviors. Others saw monsters wearing armor. The humans stood still, waiting, their helmets reflecting the light in a way that hid their eyes. It was like staring into a wall of cold glass, and many aliens felt a chill in their hearts. Finally the human commander stepped forward. He removed his helmet slowly and revealed a face that was calm but hard, eyes sharp and cold like a knife. He looked at the council, not as a servant but as an equal, or perhaps as something higher. You called for soldiers, he said in a voice that carried through the chamber. We are not soldiers, we are hunters, we are killers, we are the answer to the enemy you cannot fight. The chamber grew silent. Some aliens trembled. Some grew angry at the arrogance. But none could speak against him, for they knew they had no other choice. The swarm was coming, and only these humans had stepped forward when the galaxy cried for help. The humans began their work without delay. They asked no questions about politics or power. They only asked for maps, numbers, and details of every battle lost. Their eyes moved over the data like wolves studying prey. They pointed to weaknesses in the swarm's movements, to mistakes the aliens had never seen before. Their minds were sharp and their thoughts were fast, as the council watched. They realized humans did not think like defenders. Humans thought like predators. They were planning not how to survive but how to strike back. The alien generals whispered among themselves, unsettled by the way humans smiled when they spoke of killing millions of the swarm. For humans, war was not feared, it was nature. Outside the chamber, alien soldiers tried to watch the humans more closely. They saw strange training rituals in silence, movements so fast and brutal that even the strongest alien warriors stepped back in shock. Humans fought each other with fists, knives, and guns as if every moment was battle practice. Their bodies were scarred and their eyes were cold. Even without armor they looked dangerous, one alien soldier whispered. These are not allies. They are weapons given flesh. Still, the council could not stop them. Every day the swarm drew closer. Every day more planets screamed for help. The humans had come when no one else would. And so the galaxy had no choice but to give them command. A week later the first test came. A planet on the edge of the swarm cried for aid. Its skies were black with enemy ships, its cities already burning. The council prepared to send fleets, but the humans refused. They said no fleets were needed. They asked only for a single dropship and their squads of killers. The aliens were shocked, even horrified. You cannot fight an entire swarm with so few, they cried. The human commander only smiled, a smile without warmth. You asked for soldiers, he said. Again. We are death squads, we do not fight wars, we end them. The dropships launched. The alien fleet stayed back, forced to watch from the safety of orbit as the humans descended into the fire. The screens filled with images of burning cities and endless rivers of insectoid swarm creatures. The alien leaders whispered prayers, certain the humans would be torn apart in moments. But what they saw next froze the blood in their veins. The humans hit the ground like thunder. They moved through streets like shadows, every shot perfect, every movement fast and precise. They did not break lines. They did not retreat. They advanced step by step, killing everything in their path. 100 swarm beasts fell for every human step taken. They did not shout or scream. They fought in silence, as if war was nothing but work to them. The swarm was endless, but the humans were unstoppable. For the first time in many years, the aliens saw the enemy retreat. The swarm that had eaten entire worlds now pulled back, confused and broken by a force too ruthless to understand. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some aliens cheered, others trembled. But all of them knew one truth now. The humans were not here to fight alongside them. The humans were here to do something far more terrifying. The galaxy had asked for soldiers, but it had received killers beyond imagination. And as the smoke rose from the burning world, every alien watching began to wonder a new question. Would humanity save the galaxy from its enemy, or would they one day decide that the galaxy itself was the next enemy to be destroyed? The galaxy had seen many wars but nothing compared to the swarm. They were not like normal enemies with leaders and fleets. They were endless creatures driven only by hunger. They spread like a disease across the stars, devouring everything in their path. They did not speak, they did not stop, they only consumed. Planets once bright with life became hollow shells within days. Ships that stood in their way vanished under waves of teeth and claws. The alien empires had fought with their proudest armies. But none of it mattered. Lasers, missiles, shields, nothing could stop the swarm's endless tide. Entire fleets vanished, entire civilizations disappeared. And still the swarm came closer, moving through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The council had told the humans of this enemy, but no words could truly show what they faced. Now, as human scouts studied the swarm on a broken world, the truth was revealed. The planet was black with movement as billions of insect-like creatures crawled across its surface. Their bodies were armored, their claws sharp, their jaws dripping with acid. They were not mindless, for they moved with strange order, as if guided by one will at the heart of their endless horde. The humans watched silently. Through their visors, they saw not monsters but targets. They studied how the swarm built nests, how it spread, how it consumed. They saw the weak points that the aliens had missed. Their calm unsettled the council, for no other race could look at such horror without fear. The humans only whispered one word, pray. The swarm struck suddenly, testing the humans with a wave of creatures faster than tanks, strong enough to crush steel. The aliens watching from orbit whispered in fear, certain the humans would be torn apart. But what they saw turned fear into silence. The death squads did not retreat. They spread out in perfect formation, every soldier covering the other. Their weapons spat fire and steel, cutting through the swarm with terrifying precision. No shot was wasted. No soldier broke line. The swarm crashed against them like an ocean against stone, and for the first time in memory, the ocean broke. The humans advanced step by step into the tide, each kill methodical, each strike a lesson in cold violence. The aliens could not believe it. These were not battles as they understood them. This was extermination. The swarm fought with endless numbers, but the humans fought with something stronger, a will to kill that no creature could match. They moved like machines, but their eyes burned with something more savage, something older. Even when bodies fell around them, even when claws tore into their armor, they did not slow down. They pushed forward as if the pain was nothing, as if death itself was too weak to stop them. The swarm had destroyed thousands of armies, but now the swarm itself began to hesitate. When the battle ended, the ground was carpeted with broken bodies of the swarm. The air burned with smoke and the smell of acid blood. The humans stood among the ruins silent and calm, their weapons still smoking, their armor scarred but unbroken. They had taken their first true taste of the swarm, and they were not afraid. They had found an enemy worthy of the hunt, and their eyes gleamed with hunger for more. The aliens on the council felt a deep chill. The swarm had always been their nightmare, but now they wondered if they had called forth something even worse. The humans did not see the swarm as a curse. They saw it as a challenge. The human commander sent a single message to the council after the battle. It was not long or full of speeches. It was simple words that cut like knives. "We have seen your enemy, we will break them." The council tried to celebrate, but the sound was hollow. They had watched the humans fight and win, but what unsettled them was not the victory. It was how the humans enjoyed it. There was no fear in them, no hesitation, no mercy. They killed not only to survive but because they were built for it. The aliens looked at one another with unease and asked the question none dared say aloud. What will these death squads do when the swarm is gone? For now the galaxy had no choice but to follow them, but deep inside every leader felt the same fear. The galaxy had wanted soldiers, it had begged for protection. But it had unleashed predators who looked at the stars not with love, but with the eyes of hunters searching for their next kill. The day of the first great battle came faster than the council expected. The swarm had launched a massive strike against a border world, and the alien fleets prepared to hold the skies. They filled the orbit with ships, terrified that once again they would watch another planet burn. But the humans refused to join the fleets. They demanded to be dropped straight into the heart of the war. The alien generals argued, shouting that it was suicide. But the human commander only said one cold line. "You fight to survive, we fight to kill. That is the difference." And so the death squads were launched. Their drop ships cut through the smoke-filled sky and roared toward the burning world below. Aliens watched the live feeds in silence as the humans descended into chaos. The planet was already lost by normal standards. Cities had fallen, millions of swarm creatures filled the streets, towers burned like candles in the night. The swarm covered every surface like a black sea, endless and crawling. The alien fleets in orbit trembled, knowing their armies would never stand against such numbers. But the humans did not see numbers. They saw targets. The dropships opened and death squads poured out like shadows with fire in their hands. They hit the ground with explosions, shaking the soil, their armored boots pressing into the ash of broken cities. The swarm rushed to meet them, a living wall of claws and acid jaws. But the humans did not falter. The first shots ripped through the swarm like thunder. Bullets, fire, and steel tore holes through the black tide. The humans advanced without hesitation, their formation perfect, their discipline unbreakable. They moved like one machine, each squad covering another, each step taken with brutal precision. The aliens in orbit could not believe what they saw. The swarm was endless, but the humans carved through them like blades cutting flesh. Every second dozens of creatures fell, their bodies crushed and burned under the relentless storm of human firepower. But it was not just their weapons, it was the way they fought. No fear, no panic, no wasted movement. They stepped over fallen brothers without pause, their faces calm behind the glass of their helmets. They did not scream, they did not shout, they did not celebrate victory. They only killed, cold and silent. The swarm tried to overwhelm them with numbers, leaping from walls, bursting from tunnels, pouring out of nests in rivers of teeth. But the humans adapted instantly. They burned nests with fire. They collapsed tunnels with explosives. They moved faster than the swarm could think. For every human who fell, 100 swarm creatures died in return. Hours passed, but the death squads never slowed. They fought as if exhaustion did not exist, as if pain was nothing, as if death itself could not touch them. Aliens watching the feed whispered that this was not an army but a force of nature. The swarm had never met such killers before. They had faced countless species and devoured them all, but this time something was different. The humans fought not like prey defending themselves but like predators enjoying the hunt. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to break. The swarm pulled back for the first time in memory. The creatures that never retreated now hesitated before the advancing humans. The alien fleets above erupted in disbelief as they saw entire sections of the swarm collapsing under the relentless slaughter. Hope returned, but it was a dark and uneasy hope, because the aliens realized the truth of what they were witnessing. This was not salvation. This was extermination. The humans did not fight to save lives. They fought to destroy utterly. To cleanse completely, to erase every trace of their enemy. The aliens had asked for soldiers, but what they had unleashed were hunters of extinction. When the battle ended, the planet was broken but not lost. The swarm retreated into the void, leaving behind fields of their dead. The cities were ruins, but survivors crawled out of hiding, staring in shock at the armored figures that had saved them. The humans stood in silence, weapons still smoking, armor stained with acid and blood. They did not cheer or rest. They only prepared for the next hunt. The alien leaders sent messages of thanks, but the human commander gave no reply. His only words were cold and final. The first hunt is done. The next will be larger. And with those words the aliens felt both relief and dread. They had seen the humans fight and win against the impossible, but the question whispered in every mind was the same. Who truly controlled the battlefield now? The swarm or the death squads that had come from Earth? The victory on the border world spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in many years the swarm had been stopped, and it was not by fleets or empires but by a few squads of humans. The aliens celebrated at first, their people cheering in relief, but inside the councils of power the mood was not joy but fear. They had seen the death squads fight, and they could not forget it. The way humans killed without hesitation, the way they advanced without mercy, the way they seemed to take pleasure in the hunt. These were not soldiers of peace. They were executioners dressed in armor. Some alien leaders whispered that the swarm had finally met a predator greater than itself, but others whispered something darker. What happens when these predators no longer have the swarm to fight? The survivors of the planet that had been saved looked at the humans with mixed feelings. They bowed to them in thanks, yet their eyes were wide with terror, and no one forgot the cold silence of the death squads, the way they walked through streets filled with bodies without a flicker of emotion. Parents pulled children away when humans passed, not because they hated them but because they felt that these warriors were not men but something more dangerous, something beyond understanding. Rumors began to spread in every corner of the galaxy. Some said humans were not fighting for the galaxy but only for themselves. Some claimed Earth had bred killers for centuries, waiting for a chance to unleash them. Some believed humans were as dangerous as the swarm itself. Inside the council chamber the arguments grew sharper. One alien leader stood and shouted that the humans were monsters that could not be trusted. "We asked for soldiers and they sent killers," he roared. Others shouted back that without those killers the galaxy would already be lost. The council was split between fear and respect. They needed the humans but they no longer knew if they wanted them. Their choice was gone anyway, because the humans did not ask for permission. They only acted. The human commander sent new battle plans directly to the fleets. He did not request approval, he gave orders. And the terrifying thing was that the fleets obeyed. The alien admirals hated it but they could not deny the results. Everywhere the humans went the swarm bled. Planets once certain to fall were held, worlds already burning were reclaimed. The humans moved faster than any council vote, their squads vanishing into the darkest war zones and returning with victory and mountains of swarm corpses. But with every win came more unease. Alien soldiers who fought beside them told stories that spread like shadowed fire. They spoke of humans laughing in the middle of combat. They spoke of humans fighting with bare hands when ammunition ran dry, tearing swarm creatures apart like wild beasts. They spoke of eyes behind helmets that seemed empty, soulless, filled only with the will to kill. Entire cultures began to fear the very saviors they had prayed for. Songs were sung not of hope but of warnings. The death squads walk among the stars, the songs whispered, and where they go only death follows. The humans themselves cared nothing for the rumors. They did not seek love or trust. They did not ask for statues or honors. They only prepared for the next war, the next hunt. For them the galaxy was not a place of peace but a battlefield waiting for their steps. One night the council gathered again, trying to decide how to deal with the humans. Some wanted to limit their power, others wanted to send spies, a few even suggested removing them once the swarm was gone. But all of them fell silent when the human commander walked into the chamber without invitation. His voice was calm but carried iron. "You fear us," he said. "Good. Fear is honest. Fear keeps you alive, but remember this. You called us, we did not ask to come. You begged for an army and Earth gave you hunters. Do not forget that when the war is done." With that he turned and left, leaving the council in silence. Outside, fleets prepared for the largest battles yet. The swarm was still endless, still coming, but now the galaxy trembled not only at the thought of the swarm but at the thought of the humans who fought them. In every heart there was respect for their strength, but in every shadow there was fear of their nature. The galaxy had been saved for now, but it had also unleashed something it could never control. The question that haunted every leader and every soldier was simple and terrible. What will the death squads do when the swarm is no more? The swarm struck harder than ever before. It came not for border worlds but for a heart world of the galaxy, a shining planet filled with billions of lives. Aliens screamed as the skies turned black with endless enemy ships. The fleets rushed to defend but the swarm tore through them like paper. Every defense line crumbled, every wall burned, every city shook with terror. The council was certain it would be the end. They called the humans in desperation, their voices breaking with fear, but the humans did not panic. They had already prepared. For them the swarm was not a storm but a hunt, and the larger the prey the greater the challenge. The death squads gathered in silence, checking weapons, sharpening blades, loading ammunition. There were no speeches, no prayers, no promises. They moved like men who had done this 1,000 times before. The dropships launched, cutting through fire and chaos, heading straight into the storm. Aliens in orbit begged them to wait, to regroup, but the humans ignored every call. They dropped into burning cities where the swarm already consumed everything. The ground shook with the screams of billions as the death squads landed among them. And then the slaughter began. The humans did not fight to defend walls or protect lines. They struck deep, carving through swarms like knives into flesh. They did not hold ground. They advanced forward into the largest hives, into the very heart of the swarm itself, fighting in places no alien had ever dared to go. The live feed showed it all. Aliens across the galaxy watched as humans tore apart the impossible. Walls of creatures broke under their fire, nests collapsed under their bombs, tunnels filled with fire as humans burned them from within. They moved in small squads but it looked like armies wherever they passed. The swarm howled and swarmed over them, but the humans always pushed forward, never retreating, never breaking. Some fell, but the rest kept moving as if nothing mattered but the kill. Aliens, watching, whispered in horror and awe. They had never seen anything like it, not even in legends. It was not war anymore, it was extermination. Hours passed and the swarm sent its strongest beasts, creatures larger than buildings, armored like ships, but the humans brought them down with ruthless precision. They climbed the monsters, planted explosives in their joints, ripped them apart with blades when guns ran dry. The galaxy could not believe it. The swarm that had consumed thousands of worlds was being cut open piece by a handful of death squads. The alien fleets above could do nothing but watch, stunned into silence, while the humans changed the very shape of the war. At the center of the planet, the largest hive rose like a black mountain of living flesh, the command heart of the swarm. The humans marched straight into it, no hesitation, no fear. They cut tunnels with fire, killed thousands with every step, until at last they reached the heart itself. What happened there the cameras could not fully show. The feeds cut in static, the sounds of screams and explosions echoing across the chamber. And then silence. When the signal returned, the hive was collapsing in flames and the humans were walking out covered in blood and smoke, calm as if nothing had happened. The swarm screamed across the skies, their ships breaking formation as the will that bound them cracked. For the first time in history, the swarm retreated from a heart world. The galaxy erupted in shock. Fleets cheered, civilians cried, leaders shouted with joy. But beneath the celebration there was something else, something colder. The aliens had seen the truth with their own eyes. The humans had not only won the battle, they had done it in a way no one else could. They had walked into the mouth of the nightmare and ripped its heart out with their bare hands. And they had done it with a silence more terrifying than any scream. The council gathered after the battle, voices shaking as they tried to understand what they had unleashed. Some called the humans saviors, others called them monsters. But all agreed on one thing: nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The human commander sent one final message after the victory. His voice was steady, cold, and without pride. The galaxy asked for soldiers, he said. We sent death squads, and the war is not over. The message ended, leaving the council in silence, hearts heavy with fear and respect. The swarm had been broken but not destroyed, and behind every victory the shadow of the humans grew larger, darker, more terrifying. The galaxy realized that they had crossed a line that could never be undone. They had unleashed hunters who could not be controlled, and now they had to live with the truth that perhaps the swarm was not the greatest danger after all. Perhaps the real danger was the death squads themselves. The war reached its end sooner than anyone believed possible. The swarm that had terrorized the stars for centuries was broken piece by piece wherever the humans marched. Planets once lost were reclaimed, skies once filled with endless black were cleared, and the galaxy began to breathe again. But the victory brought not only relief but a heavy silence, because as the smoke faded the question every alien whispered grew louder. What will the humans do now that the swarm is gone? The death squads had become legends in only a few campaigns. They were feared more than worshipped, respected more than loved. Alien civilians stared at them from a distance, too afraid to approach, too uncertain to celebrate with them. When humans walked through liberated cities, the crowds did not cheer like they would for heroes. They simply stood aside, watching with wide eyes, as if wild beasts had entered their streets. The council gathered in secret once more, not to plan battles but to plan the future. Many leaders were uneasy. Some said the humans should be rewarded and sent home with honor. Others whispered that they should never be allowed to leave, that their power was too great, that if humanity ever turned against the galaxy no force could stop them. The debate raged for hours until the chamber doors opened without warning and the human commander walked in. His armor was scarred, his face calm, his eyes sharp as always. He looked at the council as if he already knew every word they had spoken. The swarm is finished, he said in his steady voice. Your worlds are safe, for now. The last two words sent a chill through every soul in the room. The council tried to thank him, to offer gifts and treaties, but he raised a hand and cut them off. We did not fight for your council, he said coldly. We did not fight for your empires, we fought because no enemy will ever be allowed to threaten Earth. As long as we live, nothing in this galaxy will put our people at risk again. Remember that. The aliens froze. The message was clear. The humans had not come as servants or saviors. They had come as hunters protecting their own territory, and the galaxy was only safe as long as Earth decided it was safe. The news spread across the stars. The death squads were leaving, returning to their blue world at the edge of space. But they did not leave peace behind. They left fear and silence. Aliens whispered in shadows, wondering when the humans would return, wondering if the death squads would one day see the galaxy itself as a threat. Their songs and stories changed from cries of victory to warnings told to children at night. Beware the humans. They said. They came when we called, and they will come again. When it suits them. On worlds saved by human fire, statues were built not to honor them but to warn future generations that killers in human shape had once walked among them. On Earth the soldiers returned in silence, carrying scars and memories of a war that had reshaped the galaxy. They did not speak of glory or honor. They spoke only of the hunt, of the next time the stars would call. They were not heroes in their own eyes. They were what they had always been, death squads trained to kill until nothing remained. Their commander stood before them and gave no speech of thanks, no promise of peace. His only words were simple. The galaxy asked for soldiers, we gave them. Hunters, if they call again, we will answer the same. And so the galaxy remained caught between gratitude and dread. The swarm was broken, but the shadow of humanity stretched across the stars like a storm waiting on the horizon. Every alien leader knew that their empires lived only at the mercy of Earth now. They celebrated survival, but they celebrated with trembling hands, for they had seen the truth too clearly. They had wanted an army. They had begged for soldiers. They had unleashed monsters who walked like men, and those monsters had shown them what true war looked like. The swarm had been a nightmare, but in the end the galaxy feared something else far more. The humans.